Hello and welcome to Super OK, where we try to do a decent enough job to entertain people with our opinions on video games. My name is Dale, and I am joined here by, another person who loves to share their opinion on video games, and that is Mel. Mel, how are you?
Hello, Dale. I am doing super well. How are you?
I'm okay.
I feel that.
I'm okay. I don't know that I would say super well. I might say animal well.
Okay.
Yeah. I might say wishing well. I don't know.
Surviving, right?
I don't know what adjective, what modifier to well I could have on it. Yes, I am definitely surviving.
Good. All that matters.
Against all odds, I am surviving. So this is a video game podcast in which we never start by talking about video games, because why would we? Instead, we start by talking about our highlight of the week, and that's the thing that made our week a little bit better and a little bit brighter, a little bit nicer to live in. And I'm actually going to go first because you gave me the perfect segue, because you asked if I was surviving, and the answer is I am surviving, and in fact, I am starting to feel better.
Yay.
I had an upper respiratory infection and double pink eye, and I gave all of that to my wife, and she's so grateful for that. I am starting to finally feel better. The meds are working. My eyes are almost goopless, which is good. I had a couple hours the other night where I could actually breathe through both nostrils at the same time.
That's a good feeling.
It was such luxury. And so I feel like I'm on the other end of this, but this was nasty as hell. So if you hear of anybody who has like a viral respiratory infection, don't go near them. You don't want none of this. I promise.
And I'm so sorry that you're still dealing with that. I feel like it's been weeks.
It has been. It's been almost exactly 2 weeks, in fact. Because I caught it when I went to Combo Breaker, and that was a really good time. But we'll save that for a different episode, because I want to do a whole episode on it. But that's not this episode, and we'll talk about why in a minute. But first, tell me what your highlight of the week was.
Ooh, my highlight of the week was having like a relatively rough week and then finishing it all off with a nice steak dinner. I got to go to a one of like my husband's favorite like restaurants, which is called Rochester Chop House, like in downtown Rochester. And they have like this delicious like Delmonico ribeye like steak, and it's served with this porcini truffle butter on top of it. And I got my medium rare, and it was cooked perfectly. And I was just so happy to be able to have a good steak. Like, I don't know what about like eating like this juicy and flavorful piece of meat, but it just like really, really made me happy. I can't explain it. I can't explain to you like the jubilance of eating a steak. Is jubilance a word? I'm making it a word.
Yes, it is. My mouth is watering, if it's any consolation.
Oh, it's so good. It's got like this really great savory note to it, and it's just so worth it. It's so worth the money to just have steak sometimes.
So what was almost going to be my highlight of the week, but I didn't want to brag about it, was that I did, Ange and I risked it on one of the nights and went out with Gannon, because he's been in town.
Right.
And we went to El Barzone for dinner. And nice. that is the site where I had the best steak of my life. But it was the special that day. Like, they don't normally have it. And so I was really hoping they were going to have it that day, but they didn't. And the meal was absolutely amazing. And we were very, very careful. And hopefully both Gannon and Bridget do not get what we have. But yeah, there's something about a good meal, and there is even something more about a really, really good steak.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you got to have like a good steak. Like, did you go have El Barzone and had steak there?
when we went this time, because they didn't have the steak, I got their pasta di tri, which is like a 3 pasta meal, and it was delightful. I had like a ravioli and like a mushroom rigatoni, and like it was very, very good. Both Gannon and Bridget got the gnocchi, and that's a delight, and Ange got the ravioli. So we all had awesome pasta dishes, but unfortunately no steak.
No steak.
So I have this deep need in my soul to have a steak.
Yeah, I understand that. I hope that you get it sometime soon.
Me too. There's also something about just grilling in the summer, that's good. And that was the last time that I had a steak. Actually, my brother-in-law grilled up some steaks for us, and it was good. It was really good.
I always love a good summer event. It gives you some good stuff like steak.
Ooh, speaking of summer events, it's almost like you planned that, Mel.
Alley-oop.
Summer Games Fest just happened like yesterday, and it had a whole mess of debuts this year, announcements and new games that are coming out and that sort of thing. And so Mel and I thought that it would be fun for us to just go through some of these new announcements, rapid fire, tell you our thoughts, give you our initial opinions, tell you what we're excited about, what we're not excited about, what we're wary of, and be able to like go through all of that with you. Now, to start with, they started by talking about the layoffs that have been rampant throughout the games industry this year. And Mel, you had an interesting take on this. And so I just wanted to ask, like, what were your thoughts around this?
Yeah. So I thought it was like really interesting that Jeff kind of started off by like calling out that the layoffs were like disappointing. Which is weird because like for him being in the gaming industry, like he's talking about the companies that he will be potentially working with. So I feel like it's just like a weird play on his part to like kind of say that. But like as a gamer, like that makes me like really excited that like there are other people who are acknowledging that and like who are acknowledging that within the industry itself. But yeah, just like a weird move. I don't. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, I agree with you. I think it's a weird move. And I think it's an even weirder move when you consider the fact that he is taking money from all of these game companies to advertise their games on his platform. It's like you are criticizing the people who are paying you right now. Mm. And on one hand, it's like, great, speak truth to power, right? Like these companies need to not like do this sort of shit. And on the other hand, it's like, it feels really disingenuous.
Right. Like, what are you kind of doing right now?
Yeah. Pretty bizarre. Speaking of what are you doing right now, the first game that they announced was Lego Horizon Adventures. And this was a game that started with a Lego hot dog man auditioning for the part of Aloy. And I'm going to be honest, my opinion of this is that the hot dog man was the best part.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't see like okay, while I agree that the hot dog man was a very cool input, I thought that the way that they decided that they were going to have like this dance floor in the middle of this village was kind of weird and kind of interesting. And it was like techno. I was like, but in the Horizon games, like they don't got this shit going on. What the what?
I mean, you're not wrong. I got like, I don't know, maybe 6 hours into the first Horizon and was bored.
What?
And I stopped playing. I'll be perfectly honest. I got to like the first town that you get to, and it was like, I just couldn't care anymore about it.
Oh,
and
wow.
I also do not like Lego games. And so this is definitely not for me. I'm glad that it is for someone. I'm glad that that person is you.
That person's definitely me. Just because like Lego games by themselves are just really fun. It's very casual. And I feel like just by watching this particular trailer, it kind of gave me like Lego movie vibes. And I really enjoyed that movie. So I'm kind of like looking forward to playing this game.
I also really liked the Lego movie. It doesn't change the fact that I don't like any of the Lego games.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. So outside of that, the next thing that we want to talk about that they revealed, we're going in chronological order for our listeners, but we're not going to touch on every game. I don't have an opinion, for instance, on Dragon Ball Z Spark Zero or whatever it was called. And so we're not going to talk about that one. But the next one that we are going to talk about is No More Room in Hell 2. What are your thoughts on this?
It's really interesting that they're creating another horde zombie co-op game, but instead of like how most of the games that we have played before in the past, it's like 4 players, it's now 8. And in my opinion, like it's cool that like we're going to be able to go through and kill zombies, like go through and I don't know exactly how they're going to do it, but I'm just like thinking like, okay, like Left 4 Dead, Back 4 Blood, like that's kind of like where they're trying to get at. Like, is it going to be the same type of gameplay? So how are they going to change it up because it seems overdone?
Yeah. I think what's really interesting about this is they talked about the fact that it's 8-player co-op and that the 8 players will spawn all over the map. So it's not like you're starting out next to your friends. You have to fight. You have to fight to find your friends, which I think is really awesome. And then they also talked a little bit about how characters have permadeath in this. And so it's like if you've spent 6 or 8 hours or whatever, like grinding up one character, you're going to really, really, really want to take care of that character. And I think that that raises the stakes in a way that's really, really interesting. And so if this has anywhere near the replayability of the Left 4 Dead series, I think it's going to be awesome. I'm very excited about this, actually. Cool. Next up, we've got Harry Potter Quidditch Champions.
Yeah, I'm very meh about this. Like, I could consider myself to be a Harry Potter fan, not a diehard fan, but a fan. And I know that within like the last Harry Potter game, people were really upset that there wasn't Quidditch in the game, and now they're coming out with this Champions, and it kind of makes me think about like, is this just like a fantasy sports game with a career mode? Like, are you just role playing as somebody that's rising up in the ranks of like the Quidditch League or whatever? But yeah, I don't know. Or it could be something completely different. Who knows? And I kind of really don't care.
Yeah, I do not give a shit about this. It looks like it should be an N64 game, and a portion of the proceeds goes towards a turf. So I really do not give. Yeah. I don't give 2 shits about 3 shits about this.
Fair enough.
But a game that I do give a shit about is a game called Cuff Bust, which is from the maker of Choo Choo Charlie. And this is a game where you're like a little weird mouse alien kind of thing. And you and some friends are all trying to break out of mouse alien jail together. And it looks really fun, and it looks really stupid, and it looks like there's some sort of PvE kind of aspect, or PvP and PvE aspect to it. So it's like, it's a jailbreak game, but you can go in and like mess with other teams who are also trying to break out of jail at the same time. And you can like sabotage them and like distract the guards and point them towards your opponents. And that way it clears up your way out. It just looks really, really fun. And I love the fact that this is the follow-up game from the guy who made Choo Choo Charlie.
Yeah. I've never actually played Choo Choo Charlie. Is that... Should I be playing that game?
No.
Okay.
No, you should not. It's a horrifying game in which basically you are always on the run from Thomas the Tank Engine, but
it's that game?
Spider legs.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not playing that game. You're right. Yeah, how you were like, no.
That's not your game. That is not your game.
Oh, God, I'm already horrified. Yeah, okay.
For reference, listeners, when we were watching this, Mel and I were checking it out on YouTube, not live. And so we had the luxury of skipping forward, and we definitely skipped through pretty much every horror game, just because Mel was like, I don't want to see this.
Yeah, not my thing.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Cuff Bros, though?
I played a lot of like prison break style games. And for me, it all kind of seems the same. It's all like finding things within like the jail that you can craft to like figure out how to utilize it to like make a shovel or like make a lockpick and like or like an explosive and try to get out of the jail. And I feel like this is kind of like in the same vein of that. So I'm curious to know if it's going like what other mechanics they're going to have in there in order to like make it different from one another. Maybe the PvP thing where like there could be two different types of teams that is trying to break out and they're sabotaging each other. Maybe that will be a little bit different, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this game just yet. But I will say that those little alien creature things look like Stitch from Lilo and Stitch. They all kind of like have that vibe.
You are right. They definitely are Stitch-esque. Also, top secret confession time. I'll go first. I did not know that there were other breakout style of games like this, other than like Escape Room Simulator and that sort of thing.
Okay, yeah. There's gosh, there was one free to play like jail. I think it was like some jail game that like we played between like me and my friends, and it was fine. It was like a top down. You're in your jail cell, and then like there's people who play as cops, and then there's people who play as like the prisoners, and then the prisoners all have to like work together to get out. But like the cops are there to either like search your bunk beds to find like the whatever you're hiding, or like send you back into like isolation or something like that as like a timeout like mechanic. So yeah, I feel like a lot of cool. Yeah, and it's the one that I was talking about is free to play. I don't remember what it's called, but I will have to think about it and let you know if that's something that you're interested in.
I mean, it sounds like a really fun time. So yeah, like maybe let's play some of that in the Discord or something.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. I'm glad to know that exists. Another game that I'm glad to know exists is a game called, it's either Neva or Neva. I cannot remember.
It's Neva.
It's Neva. Thank you. But it's from the makers of Gris, Gris. Did you ever play Gris?
I did, and I love that game. I cried playing that game just because it like really talks about a girl trying to like grieve and like how she was like depressed through it. So yeah, I loved everything about that game.
Yeah. I also played it. I also loved it. I thought like from a platforming puzzly perspective, it was really, really like just like a very engaging game, for something with no combat in it, essentially. Like it was really engaging. And Neva looks gorgeous. It looks like it's one part Gris, one part Never Alone, and one part Ico, because there's a part where your character has like a pup with them, and there's a part where like the shadows are holding the pup and you have to like get them out. I was also excited to see that this game does feature combat, at least in that portion of it. So I'm excited about this. What do you think? Mel?
Oh gosh, I am so sorry. My microphone came undone.
Oh no, you're fine. Hold on. We'll pause for a second and then I'll give you a what do you think again.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
What do you think?
Yeah, I am really looking forward to playing this game just because it has like this doggo that like follows you around and it's super adorable. And I loved Gris or Grease or whatever it's called. I thought that game was just incredible in its storytelling without having to like say anything. So I'm really interested to see like how this one plays out as well.
Yeah, cool, very cool. Next up was Black Myth Wukong.
Yeah, so I have no idea what this game is about, and if I had to base it off of this trailer, it's like a samurai monkey thing, but I don't know what I'm buying myself into. Like, why do I care about buying their deluxe version and their collector's edition and all the stuff that's in it?
The fact that they spent like a minute on this game and then another 20 seconds showing me all of the different editions of this is ridiculous.
Yes.
The fact that they have a collector's edition that comes with a statue that is almost 2 feet tall and is $400 is like the funniest shit to me.
Wild. It's wild.
It's like who cares about this game enough to spend $400 on an unreal? Like, you don't even know what it is.
Yeah. Maybe people know what it is, and I just don't. Maybe I just don't.
It's not out yet.
I know.
You might think you know what it is, but you don't know what it is.
You're right. I don't. They don't. And somehow they think that somebody is going to buy a $400 collector's edition of this game. Weird play.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's very weird that, I mean, it's an action RPG, right? Mm-hmm. So it could be good. It could be absolutely terrible. But the fact that they're asking people to pay $400 is like insane.
Yeah.
Also, I looked this up, and this is the utmost comedy. When you buy the collector's edition, you do not get a disc. It just comes with a digital code.
So you're just getting a box of stuff?
You get a box of stuff and a digital code to download the game.
Oh,
you don't even get a disc. It's so good. It's so good. And
what?
So stupid.
What's the point? I don't understand what they're trying to accomplish here.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because what if that game's a flop?
Uh-huh.
You spent $400 on just shit.
On a statue of a monkey man.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Nope.
Yeah. Speaking of games I don't know about, Once Human looks interesting, but I'm a little wary of it. It looks to be like an open world MMO kind of game, but it borrows heavy from Returnal's monster design, right?
Okay.
And I like the monsters in Returnal, but that's a very specific style of like creation that they're kind of ripping off. And so I'm cautiously optimistic, but we'll see how it works out. What are your thoughts on this?
So I've been watching a lot of people on Twitch play the beta of this game when it is out. They've had like a few closed betas. So there's like a whole bunch of like raids and dungeons you can do co-op with people. You can craft stuff and also build bases. Like think of it as like a better Fallout 76. That's what it kind of plays as. I think it's interesting, but I don't know if it's like a game that I really want to play with other people, just because of like because there's so many other people out there. Like, are there? And maybe this is just me not liking how MMO PvP works. Are you gonna get ganked while you're trying to like do a raid or a dungeon or something like that, or trying to traverse the world? Like, I don't find that to be fun. In general.
That's fair. Is this like, obviously it's a survival game, but is this like third person shooter survival, or is it like, okay. All right. Yeah, I think I'm out on this. I'm glad somebody's going to like it, but I don't need another open world survival game.
Yeah, but this one is like MMO style, so there's going to be tons of other people that are going to play with you.
Yeah, I don't need that. I don't need that at all. Speaking of things I don't need, Batman's Arkham Shadows, which is a MetaQuest 3 exclusive, was one of the funniest reveals of the entire event, because they said Batman and the crowd, everybody clapped and everyone was excited. And then they said Arkham Shadows and people were like, okay, great. And then they said MetaQuest 3 exclusive and no one clapped. And then they played the trailer for it and no one clapped afterwards. And then the host said, I can't wait to get back to Gotham, and no one clapped. And it was very, very funny to me.
Yeah, it was a very awkward reveal. And I think a lot of people are just upset that if they're going to make another Arkham game, that it's an exclusive. And it's VR. Like, it just seems really off base.
Yeah.
Really, really off base.
Yeah. So that one, it's just like you could have done a million other things, and instead you made a VR like exclusive Batman game. Like, figure it out, Warner Brothers.
And on top of that, too, like the game didn't even look that great.
Mm-hmm.
It was just all around disappointing.
Well, and here's the thing. The gameplay didn't look that great. Like the graphics didn't look that great, but the storyline actually sounded really interesting to me. And it's like, I wouldn't mind playing that story.
Sure.
But I'm never going to, because I'll never give Facebook any money.
Yeah. Let alone buy into a VR headset and that whole entire environment, right?
I mean, here's the thing. If that were a PSVR 2 exclusive, I might try it. Right?
Okay.
I'm not buying a PSVR 2 right now, but the fact that they have they just announced the PSVR 2 PC adapter, where it's like now it can work with your PC.
Mm-hmm.
I might get one of those, I don't know, for Christmas or next year or something, and try this game out. I will never try this game out because it's a Meta Quest 3 exclusive. It's gonna fall right out of my brain. So, yeah. Speaking of brains falling out, the next game was Tears of Metal. And this one was really interesting because it looked kind of like a roguelike Dynasty Warriors. Mm-hmm. And I'm not mad at that idea.
No.
And it definitely showed a failure state where like the hero got his head ran through with a sword.
Yeah, it looked great.
It looked really interesting. What are your thoughts on this?
It looked really violent. I like the fact that like you're playing as a hero, right? And you can get like all these different abilities. But it was like also interesting too that they had like a barracks, right? So that like you could potentially like create your armies to like fight all the other armies. I don't know. It just seems like really interesting in general, like the idea of like a hero, and then you have an army, and then you can play co-op. And also murder a whole bunch of people? Like, yeah, that seems cool.
That seems cool. It definitely seems cool. Next up, we got Delta Force Hawk Ops. What do you think about this?
Yeah, so this game is literally just a first-person shooter that's based on, like, modern times. I think that they had, like, they showcased a, I guess it's like a campaign mode of like Black Hawk Down. And if you were to show me this particular like video game maybe like 10 years ago when I was like really into Call of Duty, like I'd be like, yeah, that looks cool. But now that I'm seeing it today, it just feels like this game has been done before. Like it just feels super, super stale. Like I don't know if it's going to do well.
Fair. My opinion on this, pass. Next up, we had Fatal Fury City of Wolves. It's a remake, or not a remake. It's a new version of the Fatal Fury series, which is another Capcom fighting game series. And this seems like a great game for people who are not aware that Street Fighter 6 exists.
Okay.
Like if you like a Capcom fighting game, Street Fighter 6 is out there, and by all accounts is excellent. And so I don't know why they are putting this out now. Like in the same, like we didn't talk about it because it's not a new thing, but in the same Summer Games Fest, they announced new characters for Street Fighter 6. Like, are you, like, which do you want them to play? It's the same game, basically.
That's so weird. And you're like going after the same market of people.
Yep.
That's such an interesting call out. I didn't like really think about that until now.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm not a huge like fighting, a fighting genre gamer. But I can see the appeal for other people. Like I feel like this would be a game that you'd be really interested in. But the only thing that got me really excited was like at the very, very end where they had like a mini game where there was a whole bunch of like beer cans and you had like sliced the top off of it. And I think it's like teaching you how to do combos. But I thought that was like so cool. I was like, oh my God, there's a mini game in this. I'd play that. I wouldn't play all like the fighting stuff, but I'd play the mini game.
Legitimately, listener, when we were watching this together, Mel screamed out, "They got mini games!"
I was so excited. I couldn't help it.
It was awesome. Oh man! All right, next up was Mecha Break. Here's the thing: this game, I like mechs, but I do not like Gundam style mechs. I like my mechs to be like mostly ground based, if that makes sense. Outside of like Zone of the Enders, I don't know. I contain multitudes. Anyway, I like mechs, but this does not look like the mech game for me. What are your thoughts?
That's fair. Yeah, it looks like a Gundam style game, and I'm not, again, not that's not my thing. So I'm sure it's somebody else's. I think that we talked about how like we think Ganon would really really like this.
Yeah.
But yeah, not my cup of tea.
Yeah, agreed. But man, did that change when the next one showed up, which was Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Reader's Rewind.
Totally. Yeah, I was like seeing the title for this and I was like, okay, like Power Rangers, cool. Like this better be an arcade game. And then you were like, oh, wait until you see, and it turned out to be a arcade game. So it's like co-op, but like it's kind of like a beat 'em up style arcade game. And then it had like really interesting first person mode where like you can shoot things like as if you were I don't even know how to explain it. Like if you were inside one of those like
the Zord
rock machines or something, I don't even know. And then they had like this roller coaster like scene where like you were on this roller coaster, but then you could also like kill things while you're on that roller coaster. It was wild, and I really want to play this game.
Yeah, it looks like they're capitalizing on the success of Shredder's Revenge from a couple years ago, the like new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles beat 'em up game. And I'm here for it because they're doing some really interesting stuff. Like you talked about, there's like an FPS part kind of where it's like there's crosshairs on the screen and you're shooting with those. There was a racing part where it's like an on rails racer where you're on like a motorcycle. And then the part that got me most excited, first person punching from the Megazord. And it's like, I want that. I want to punch a guy. I want to punch a huge guy while being in a huge guy. That's what I want.
Yeah, it definitely has some really interesting things happening in it because it feels like more than just one arcade game. You know what I mean? Like it has like all these different elements of other arcade games in this one.
Yes, very much so.
I'm very much in. And it's Power Rangers.
Yes, it is. Which I was, I'm a little old for Power Rangers, but I definitely understand the appeal. And I like the fact that because it's Power Rangers, it's going to be 5-player co-op.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so that's pretty great. Next up was Deer and Boy. Deer and Boy was a game that to me looks very cute. One of the things that was really interesting that they talked about was that it is being funded by the French government, which I think is kind of awesome. It's got like strong Never Alone vibes. It's about a little boy who finds a wounded fawn and like their journey together. And in the beginning, it shows him like putting the fawn in his backpack. But then like later on, the fawn is like walking around and like helping you to solve puzzles and that sort of thing. It looks very, very cute. I'm actually legitimately excited for this. I think it's going to be, it's probably going to be a bite-sized game, but I think it's going to be a very good game when it comes out.
Yeah, I don't see myself like playing it day one, but it's one of those games where I'm like, yeah, like I think it would be a really good casual adventure game. There are some parts of that trailer which I thought was really cute where like, the deer is trying to get underneath like this gate and there's like a little gap between the gate and the floor and he like can't get his butt underneath it. And I thought that was like super adorable. And I'm like, I hope that they have like cute things in there, like in the game like that. There was like some spooky parts in that game too, where there was like this giant, like shadowy spirit creature that was like following the kid and the kid was like hiding from it. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like it probably has some like really deep, like, I don't know, it's like underlying story that goes along with it. And I'm curious to know what that is.
Yeah, this one had like, because this and Neva had kind of a similar presentation to them. But this one, midway through, there was like an ox or maybe a warthog or something that got devoured by like this purple goo. Yeah. And then it was like a huge warthog. Yeah, I think it was a warthog.
Right.
And it's just like, that's like the idea of like a main antagonist in a game like this is really interesting, because I played Never Alone, and don't get me wrong, I loved Never Alone, but the antagonist was pretty much the environment.
Sure.
And so to have like an actual antagonist or an actual like force that you are fighting against in a game that looks like it has zero combat is a really interesting way to do storytelling.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Cool. So moving on, let's talk about Slitterhead. You want to start?
And so Slitterhead had like such a weird trailer in general, because it was like you find this guy, this guy is like an investigator and he's going through this dark alley, and then you find a dead body inside of a garbage bin, but it's like missing an eye. And like the next thing you know, like this investigator's like trying to like figure out the puzzle of like what's happening. And then it jumps into a guy falling off like a ledge, and then something comes out of his body and penetrates another person's body, and then there's weird ass like praying mantis monsters that are really like mutated and grotesque, that's like killing people. And then you see like, and I don't know if like at this point whether or not like you are playing as that grotesque monster or you're playing as like the thing it's trying to kill. But then it turns out that there's like these kids that have like these, I don't know if you ever played the game Prototype, but like in Prototype, like the main characters like limbs would change different shapes. So it's like sometimes it would have like these blades, or like sometimes it would like have hammers and stuff like that. And then like the character that's fighting the stupid grotesque mantis monster has like all these weird different like red limbs that like is trying to kill this monster, and I was so confused through the whole entire thing. But then I was like, I kind of want to play this game.
Yes. So at some point in this trailer, both Mel and I went, wait, do you play as the bad guy?
Right. We had so many questions about this.
It was very confusing. Here's what I think happened, and I might be wrong. I don't know. We watched the same trailer.
You did.
What I think is happening is there's like a yellow spirit thing that can jump from human to human. And
Right.
you are playing as that. And when you jump into a person, you can take control of them. And one thing that we've seen is that this yellow thing that you are playing as has no regard for the lives of humans, because they were like throwing a human off a building and then midway down the jump, leaping into a different human. Right.
Right.
And so then one of the things that we saw was in combat with like one of these crazy ass monsters. They were one human type, and they had like crazy red claws that were coming out of them. And my gut feeling is, as whatever this monster is that's taking over humans, you have the ability to like manipulate the human that you're inside of. And so maybe it's like you can control the blood or something like that. And so it gave them huge claws, and they were able to like block with those and attack and whatnot. And then mid combat, they jumped into a different human. And this human had on like a trench coat. So my guess is it's like a different class of human. And that person summoned like a huge red gun out of nowhere. And then they were like shooting bullets into this monster. So my thought is, and I might be way off base, you are playing as some sort of mind controlling thing that is trying to kill or fight back against these other monsters that are trying to like take over the world. And because if you don't succeed, all humans die, like you view the lives of individual humans as expendable. So you're an otherworldly creature that is fighting other otherworldly creatures, and humans are kind of your resource.
Interesting. You got way more out of that trailer than I did. I was confused probably 80% of me watching that trailer.
Now, here's the thing. All of that might be wrong, but I know that I'm intrigued by it.
Yeah.
you know? So even if I'm wrong, I want to know how I'm wrong. And I kind of want to play this game to find out like what the fuck's going on with it.
Same. So, it looks crazy.
Yeah. So they did their job is what I'm saying. Like I am legitimately like interested in Slitterhead. I will be following this game. I'm probably going to wishlist it on Steam. Like it seems really, really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. It was a good ad.
It was a very good reveal. Another game that it was interesting, but for very different reasons, was Killer Bean. Killer Bean was insane. First off, you're a bean, like a bean, like I think a garbanzo bean, maybe.
I don't even know.
I don't know. Butt. Yeah, you got a butt, that is for sure, because they showed bean butt a lot in this trailer. And everyone else is also a bean. And you have bullet time or bean time. I don't know what they're going to call it. And it's like an action, like shooter, kind of like GTA. Actually, not like GTA. Far more like Saints Row 3 and 4, where you have like weird over the top things that you can do. Because at one point, the character like does a barrel roll while jumping out of a convertible and like shooting a bunch of people behind the car while the car runs into the people in front of him. It looks ridiculous.
Yep.
The thing that I can tell you about this game is it looks like it's being developed, first off, by like one of the animators from The Matrix, they said.
Right.
And I can tell you that this game looks like it is going to control like ass. But I don't know if I will care because it also looks funny as hell. It might have some of that like Goat Simulator magic to it, where it's like, we only took out the bugs that break the game. All the other bugs we left in, like that sort of shit. I could very easily see them going that direction with this.
Totally. I thought that trailer was really funny. It was like trying to be serious. Like it had like that very serious like undertone of like, I'm like used to be the good guy and now like the people I used to work for is now the bad guy, and being a bean just seems silly.
Yes. There was also the part where he threw the grenade up in the air and then for no reason, because you threw a grenade like it's gonna get to where it needs to go to. For no reason, the bean jumped at the grenade, passed it over its head, under its legs, and then threw it down at the group of enemies, and it
like a basketball.
Yes, and it was like, what is happening?
There was also like the one scene where like he shoots his gun, and then as he's shooting, like as the bullet's flying through the air, he shoots it again, and it like ricochets to kill a person around the corner. I was like, what is happening?
Yes. I'm so glad you called that out because it was very amazing. Very, very amazing. I love it. All right. Next up, we've got a game called Cairn. Cairn is a game from the makers of the game Fury. I don't know if you remember that one. It was spelled Furi, which was like a crazy boss battle bullet hell kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this game looks to try and take like a realistic look at climbing. This looks like a climbing simulator game. And the animations in it look really awesome. It looks really stressful. It looks like the sort of game that someone out there is going to absolutely love. And that someone is not at all me. But I wanted to highlight this game because I guarantee someone listening to this is like, that's my shit. And I am so glad that someone is making this game for you.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen a game quite like this one, where it's just primarily like having you climb up a mountain, and there's so much tension that comes with making sure that you are getting the right footing and getting the right positioning of like your anchors and stuff like that. So I think it's really interesting that they're utilizing that as a mechanic. But at the same time, I don't think I want to play that game. I think I'd have too much anxiety as a whole to play that game.
Yeah, 100%. And it's one of those things where it's like the animations are so gorgeous. Like you could tell the characters like legs were going to give out, and then the legs did give out.
Oh.
And then it switched to like a cut scene of them like falling and getting saved by their rappelling gear or whatever that stuff is called. I'm not a climber. And then like pounding the side of the mountain angrily with their fist because they're like frustrated because their legs gave out on them. And
right.
It's like, someone is going to love this game, and it is obvious how much care they're putting into this game.
Totally.
So I am really glad it is getting made.
Yeah.
I just have no interest in buying it.
Yeah, I have a hard time even watching videos of like free climbers where like they climb up mountains with the no gear. I'm just like, I can't. Same thing with people who actually have like the ropes tied up to them and like they're climbing up a really steep mountain. I'm like, how do you know that you have enough rope? How do you know if your anchor is going to hold? Too much anxiety for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Next up is a game called Wanderstop. And this one looked interesting. It is a game that in the trailer, at least, I'm just going to describe the trailer. A character is running or helping to run a little tea shop, like going out and planting flowers and helping to harvest those flowers, and then using those to make tea and serve that tea to customers, and then like working on little other cozy little chores around town, like not harvesting, but like collecting chickens and that sort of thing. But what's really interesting about this is that the character talks about how they're here working in this tea shop, but they are a fighter. They were in an arena and now they're not fighting anymore and they're in this tea shop. And then that comes to a head in the trailer where she talks about how she's happy and she's safe and she can stop running and she can stop. She can stop. She can stop. And then you see this sword, like she shuts her eyes in like frustration or anxiety or some emotion like that. And you see this sword coming out of the blackness. And then all of a sudden, the like friendly tea shop owner, all of this trailer, by the way, has been voice acted. The friendly tea shop owner puts his hand on her shoulder to wake her up. And there's like a text box in front of her that just says like, "Oh, are you all right?" or whatever. And it just was like a really interesting take on whatever this game is going to end up being. I am really intrigued on where it's going to go. I wrote down this game looks exactly like Mel's shit. So What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, like when I was watching like the trailer, like I thought the first half of it was like, this is so cool. Like there's farming involved. Like I get to make tea. It looks really casual, like just really like pleasant to play. And then like as it gets closer to like the end where she talks about like she's a fighter and she's like happy and it gets like very dark, you can kind of almost feel like the vibe is like changing. And I was like, oh God, like it's getting real. I think I said it out loud too. I was like, oh, this is getting like real dark. Yeah. And it was just such an interesting portrayal of like the main characters. I wanted to say it's called anxiety, like she's having anxiety, but maybe it's a little bit of like PTSD as well, that she's having. And I'm just really interested to see how they're going to explore that concept throughout that game. And see how well it meshes. Or maybe it's not supposed to mesh. Maybe it's supposed to be extremely jarring that this person is going through something, right? Whatever that something is, and seeing how it plays out in the game. It's just interesting.
Yeah, I am. I'm really interested to see what this looks like, what the gameplay is. Like, we don't even know what genre of game it is. It looks, based on what we saw, it looks like it's some sort of cozy game.
Yeah.
But this is published by Annapurna, so it could
be anything.
Yeah, it could go wherever.
I was like, maybe it's just going to take a turn and just be a horror game. Who knows?
I mean, it very well could be. It's absolutely insane. What is possible here, and I'm very excited for it. So,
agreed.
speaking of things that we're excited for, what about the first Descendant? It's a co-op looter shooter that I've never heard of before.
Same. I wanted to know more about it, but like maybe because this is the first time I'm hearing about it, like it's not anyone's radar for a reason. But you said that like when we were like after we watched that trailer, you're like, I'm curious about this. I'm gonna look into it. Did you watch another trailer?
So I watched a little bit of gameplay for this.
Okay.
And because here's the thing, I love a looter shooter. I
Same.
love a looter shooter. But I've been burned. I've been burned by Destiny, and I've been burned by Anthem, and oh man, have I been burned. And so I'm always cautiously optimistic about these sorts of games. And this looks like they're trying to do something where it's like a hero looter shooter, if that makes sense. Like they're trying, all of the different descendants have like different gameplay abilities and that sort of thing. And maybe it's good, maybe it's not. I can tell you that the gameplay that I watched was like 2 hours of first descendant gameplay, and it looked fine. It's the same sort of like, kill 2 enemies to a clip of bullets, run around. You've got 4 different abilities, like that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope that this is really, really interesting, but I'm not going to lie. This looks pretty mediocre. It kind of looks like someone mined Anthem's assets to like build another game.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I'm very indifferent about this. Like, I'm waiting for the game to come out, seeing what the reviews are, and then making a decision from there.
Yeah. But man, I hope it's good because I would love to play this.
I want a good looter shooter. There hasn't been a good one out there in a very long time. Borderlands is probably the last one that was good, and that was like just Borderlands 2.
Oh, you didn't like Tiny Tina's?
I didn't play it.
Oh man, it was actually
really good.
Fun. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun.
Maybe I'll give that a whirl.
But even that was like, like what, 5 years ago, something like that.
For the are you talking about the DLC for Borderlands 2, or are you talking about like the new Tiny Tina's?
The new Tiny Tina's Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry, it came out.
Same vein. That's why I was like confused for a second.
Yeah. Looks like it came out 2022, early 2022. So it's been about 2 years since one where I was like excited about it,
Yeah.
So cool. Next up was an announcement from Innersloth about the fact that they are doing like a publishing arm or like a indie development arm called Outer Sloth, and that looked fun. There are a bunch of little games that they highlighted that all looked kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But the wildest part about all of this was they also released what I assume is like the opening animation for their Among Us TV show.
Yep. Weird thing to happen, but
it's being developed with CBS.
Very weird in general.
What are your thoughts on this?
I was like, okay, like I can see a whole bunch of kids getting into it because kids really enjoy Among Us. They'd probably be really interested in watching a TV show. So I can see the appeal for something like that. But like what? Like why? Like it's kind of violent, like Among Us. Like I don't like when you watch somebody get killed because you're the killer, right? Like there's a lot of stabbing happening in that game. So I'm like worried that that might not translate well for a TV show.
So yeah, here's what blew my mind about this. They showed the little like intro trailer or whatever, and it looked okay. It's like, hey, we didn't die, and it's like people doing tasks and they're sharing pizza and all of that, whatever. And then they showed a cast list
for the
voice actors. And I'm just going to go over that cast list just really quick here because it's insane. Patton Oswalt, Deborah Wilson, Wayne Knight, Liv Hewson, Dan Stevens, Kimiko Glenn, Phil Lamar, Ashley Johnson, Yvette Nicole Brown, Randall Park, and Elijah Wood.
What? That's stacked. It's so stacked.
It's too many good names for a show based on Among Us.
Yeah, I'm speechless. I am absolutely speechless.
Yeah, it's very, very weird. So I guess I'm glad that it exists. I can't say the same about the next game, which is Sonic X Shadow Generations.
Oh, yep. That game looked okay. It was like almost like a 3D Sonic, right? Like instead of it being like on a 2D frame, it had a little bit of like 3D-ness and some interesting looking graphics. I wouldn't say it's like the best graphics, but they were definitely interesting looking.
Here's the funny thing about this. We were watching this trailer and Mel says, "This game looks okay." And I said, Shadow doesn't have a gun. Shadow's only power should be gun. I bet they're going to fuck this up somehow. And then you said, "I don't know. It looks okay." And then all of a sudden, Shadow sprouted evil demon wings. And I was like, there it is. They fucked it up. So, yeah.
That's an oof.
Absolutely ridiculous. All right. Next up, they announced Dune Awakening, which is a survival MMO set in the Dune universe, except it's not set in the Dune universe. It is set in an alternate history an alternate future of the Dune universe, where Paul Atreides is never born, and instead his mother has a daughter in his place.
Yep. She was supposed to, apparently, like, that was like her job. Her number one job was to like marry or like, have a daughter within this royal family or whatever. But like, it's just weird to me because like, as somebody who has watched the movies, who has read half of the Dune book, like, it just feels weird because like the whole the whole purpose of the book Dune was about Paul's adventure and him gaining his power through his mother and like the use of spice. So like how is it that we are going into an alternate universe and where do we fit in all of this? And like, why are you getting rid of, and they said there's no Fremen. The Fremen is extinct, but the Fremen is like the lifeblood of fucking Dune. Like, they are the people who understand the world of Dune and has lived the lives of being sand people, and they know how to like ride like the fucking like sandworms. So like, who's going to teach them this in this particular game? I'm so confused.
I think it is so weird that this game takes place in an alternate universe inside the Dune universe, because it's the Dune universe. Could you not figure out a way to build a survival MMO in the regular Dune universe? Like, you had to give us an alternate history to make your game work? And if so, why not just make your game an original IP? Like, what is going on here?
So weird. I don't know why they're utilizing the Dune branding. It's just very bizarre to me. Like, I understand that maybe you can't do like the current universe of Dune because so much has taken place between like the book and the books. I think there's like 5 books like within like the Dune series or something like that already. So there's already a lot of lore that's happening. But like you said, why can't you just build something around that? Like, it doesn't have to be purely about whatever's happening in those books, right? Like, you could figure something else that like coincides with that. It's weird. Yes. Super weird. I don't like it. I'm very interested to see if it's a flop, or what they plan on doing to make this game interesting.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed. Speaking of interesting games, though, next up was a trailer for Hyper Light Breaker.
Yeah.
Which was pretty, like, I thought it did a good job of like making me interested in the game. It looked like a co-op-y kind of adventure-y game. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't know, personally, I'm excited for this. The company behind Hyper Light Drifter and Hyper Light Breaker also made a game Solar Ash recently, which had some cool ideas in both how its combat and its movement function. And this game looks to expand upon that, but in a co-op way. So
I didn't know that.
I'm pretty excited about this. What are your thoughts?
I really got tantalized by the color, more so than anything else. The color and like the way everything was like flashing, I was like, ooh, like this is, ooh, pretty lights, ooh, pretty colors. And then it was like, oh, you can play co-op. And I was like, even better, I get to play with friends. And like in the trailer, it seems like you can play as like 3 or 4 different characters, which I think is kind of cool. And I kind of want to play it. I just feel like it would be a very unique experience to just enjoy with your friends as you're exploring this world.
Yeah. I cannot remember the name of this company, but whoever it is, I'm just going to look it up real quick. Whoever it is that made Hyper Light Drifter, Heart Machine, that's it. I don't know why I couldn't remember Heart Machine. They haven't missed yet, as far as I'm aware. And so I'm excited about Hyper Light Breaker. It looks cool. I'm probably going to wish list it on Steam.
I'm going to do that right now.
Because just like the world that they're building seems really fun. So I'm excited about it. Speaking of things that I am excited about, but I didn't know that I was excited about when it first happened, all of a sudden, there was something about like M Corp on the screen, and Tim Robinson was talking about like how M Corp loves this city and they've got nothing to hide. And people are talking about how M Corp is evil and that's making his family have stomach issues. And his wife hasn't been on the toilet in like 2 weeks. And it was insane. And
weird.
I didn't know what was going on. And then all of a sudden, it cut back to Jeff Keighley on stage. And he was like, yeah, M Corp is like moving out of the city. And that's why Skate 4 is moving in. And then there was like 15 more seconds of Tim Robinson talking about M Corp. And then 15 seconds of like Skate 4 like gameplay footage. And then they talked about how they're still building it and there's a console beta coming sometime this fall.
Yeah.
And
that's a weird move. It definitely got me interested in a way because of like the way that they just portrayed the ad with this like random teaser. But like I don't know how I feel about you just being like, yep, we're working on it. And pumping that much money into a we're working on it ad.
Yeah. I mean, Tim Robinson, I'm not saying he's like an A-list celebrity, but like
he's pretty famous.
He's not going to do that for like free, you know?
Exactly.
So, yeah. I don't know. I am afraid of what modern EA is going to do to Skate. But the first 3 Skate games were really, really good. And so I'm cautiously optimistic.
Sure.
And I'm probably going to play this unless they do some dumb shit like make it free to play, but the tricks are in loot boxes.
Oh my God.
Like, I don't know.
Don't put ideas in their head.
Yeah, Microtransactions, EA's CEO, we know you're listening. Do not take that idea. That is not a free idea for you. But I am glad that they made this thing that has Tim Robinson in it. Also, spoiler, they played an abbreviated version of it during the Summer Games Fest. There's a much longer version of it that you can find on YouTube where Tim Robinson goes into a lot more detail about the family dynamic behind him and his wife's intestinal problems. It's real weird, Mel.
Are you for real? Like that's a real thing.
Yep. The version in the Summer Game Fest was like 2.5 minutes long. The version on YouTube is like 4 minutes long.
Why? Why is EA doing? What a weird thing to do with money, bro.
Real weird. It's real weird. Real weird.
Like, don't get me wrong. I love Tim Robinson. I just think that this is a weird play for a video game.
Yeah. It's true.
The ad has nothing, like him talking about his life and his family life has nothing to do with skateboarding.
Yep.
But like maybe it's part of the plot for like a career mode in Skate or something, campaign mode.
Who knows? They're not even. They're still working on the game. They might not know.
Imagine that they like there has no like it has no tie to M Corp, and this is all just.
I would kind of like that more. I would kind of like that. Where it's just like Tim Robinson got the bag, and then they were like, "We're abandoning that part. We got to put a McTwist in a loot box." Like I would, it'd be hilarious to me.
It would be funny, but it wouldn't be good for gamers.
Yeah, but who cares about what's good for gamers?
Sure. As long as it makes money.
Yes. Speaking of which, it is time for a sponsored question. This question is sponsored by Hubris. Are you looking to do a thing that anyone could do, but you want to pretend that only you can do it? Like maybe a clip show where you announce a whole bunch of games? Try Hubris. Anyway, Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft all did not debut a single first-party game during the Summer Game Fest, probably because showcasing a game during it cost the game company doing so a minimum of $100,000 for a 1-minute spot.
What?
Yes. Possibly they also didn't do it because they can do their own presentations where they get to control all of the various aspects of it.
Fair.
Now, here's the thing about the Summer Game Fest. It went for almost 2 hours, and it had around 90 minutes of that time being either game trailers or commercials, right? So if we don't count the times when they were talking about developers or that sort of thing, there were about 90 minutes of sellable airtime during the Summer Games Fest, which means that somewhere around $9 million total were spent on buying time during the Summer Games Fest. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Now, with that in mind, what are some better things that Sony, Microsoft, or Nintendo could spend those $9 million on?
Do you want me to go first? I'll go first.
Yeah, you go first.
All right. They could spend their $9 million on R&D on making a fucking cool ass toaster. But the trick is that you have to play a game on your toaster and you get points, but they don't tell you what the score of the game is until you make the toast, because on the piece of toast is the burn marks of your score from playing the game, and that's how you make toast.
This is dumb as hell, and I love it so much. I love the idea of a leaderboard of just pictures of toast.
You just have to post it online and be like, oh, this is my score that I got for playing the game.
You have to what it online?
You have to post, you take a picture of your toast.
You got to do a toast post.
Oh, it's so fucking stupid.
That's dumb as hell. I made a joke that every employee who has been laid off in 2024 from a video game company should get a solid gold jet ski as part of their severance package. But then I found out as I was doing the math for this joke as to like how much a jet ski costs. I accidentally found out that there have been 10,513 people so far that have been laid off from video game jobs this year.
That's a oof.
And so $9 million would not even cover a jet ski for each of them, let alone a solid gold jet ski. So I guess each of those 10,513 people will have to be happy with $850. That's how many people have been laid off this year. That $9 million split into them gets each of them just over $850.
I didn't even realize that.
It's insane.
So many people who got laid off. It's crazy.
It's insane to think about. And then to hear Jeff Keighley like offhandedly mention it at the beginning and then accept $9 million worth of money from all of these video game companies. Like, your point at the beginning is even more salient now. Like, it is insane what is going on with the video games industry. It is insane that these poor people have lost their job despite record-breaking profits. It is absolutely maddening how much money is changing hands and how much money is just like in this like weird incestuous marketing cycle of stuff. It is insane. And so I'm sorry my joke is not funny, or I'm sorry my answer is not funny, but it's just very real. Give those people $850, Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo. Do it. They deserve it. It'll help. I promise.
Yeah.
It's fucking ridiculous.
Just the number is so like in all things considered, it's like so small.
Yeah. Right? Because there's so many of them.
Right.
It's ridiculous. Man, I'm mad about it. I know he didn't have anything to do with it, but fuck you, Dan. like seriously, man. These people didn't deserve to get laid off, and also fuck. It's ridiculous.
But making my toaster.
Yes, but also make the toaster where the high score gets toasted onto the toast. Oh man, I'll get down off my soapbox at this point. Do you have anything else to say about the Summer Games Fest?
I don't. Other than I guess I do. If I have something to say, I have something to say. Apparently, they're going to be doing more. I guess like they had like a developer call or developer thing right afterwards.
Day of the Dev, yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of want to watch that at some point because it's going to be more of like the developers' games or like the publisher games. So I'm really curious to see like what they have to say. What's on there?
Yeah. Apparently, like, Devolver Digital did their thing right after, and there are a whole bunch of, I mean, we're ramping up into hype season. Mm-hmm. So if you're the type of person who wants to get on board the hype train, get on now. Yeah, it's leaving the station. Cool. Outside of that, I just wanted to take a moment to thank all of our Patreon subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing. We could not keep the show free without you. So it means the world to us. If you're interested, you can head on over to patreon.com/superok. And we would be more than happy to have you join. You can start at $1, but maybe you're like, I ain't got $1. Well, tell your friends about the podcast. Tell your coworkers, your significant others, your grandpa. Maybe he's a big video game fan. I don't know. But we got a pretty good podcast. We got a pretty good community, and we'd like more people to be in it. Speaking of which, there's a Discord, and you should join that because that's where the community hangs out. And if you're in the Discord, we would love to hear what games you are excited about. Maybe we skipped it. Maybe you're super stoked about Dragon Ball Z Sparking Zero or whatever. Tell us about it. I want to hear about it. I want you to tell me why you're stoked about it because I don't know shit about it. Outside of that, Mel, where can you be found?
You can find me on the Discord as Melephant. See you there.
Yeah, and I'm on Blue Sky and in the Discord as a 20-sided ninja. I will see you in both of those locations. Outside of that, I hope you have a great Summer Games Fest. And by Summer Games Fest, I mean, I just hope you have a great summer. Keep in touch. Enjoy your steak dinners. Say goodbye.
Goodbye. Toodaloo-loos.
Aw, toodaloo.